Welcome to Secular Soup. Stay tuned for real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever the fuck else Amy and Amy want to talk about, because this is their show. And get ready for a whole lot of motherfucking profanity.
You want to hear a secret?
I won't tell anybody. Go ahead. If I sit next to you, I'm going to get gonorrhea. It's going to jump into me. Just two ladies hanging out.
Is it okay for me to make fun of his neck waddle if I make fun of my own neck waddle?
I'm not sure.
That's a real ethical conundrum.
Would you know if you were born a lizard person, or can you be like adopted into the...
I think you know.
We're such professionals.
We really are.
Buckle up, bitches. It's time to have some soup.
Hi, I'm Amy with an I, and I have America with an A on the show with us today. Hey, it's just me. So, other Amy is, I don't know where she is. I don't really care. She's not here, so we can talk shit about her all day. It's fine.
Yeah, she's not here.
Yeah, she said that I could tell everybody why she wasn't here. I'm like, why would I do that? No, I think she is pretending that she has a tummy ache, so she doesn't have to record with me right now. So that's my theory.
She's committed.
Yeah, well, she really does commit to it. Like, she went to the hospital and everything. But she has kids, so I think she just needed a break. Because
yeah,
people have been stuck in the house with their kids for 5 months. I keep telling people, I'm like, the best thing you can do for yourself is shared custody. Best thing ever. Like, I have whole days where it's just me in the house. It's great.
That must be nice.
It's fantastic.
Wait, that is nice, because I don't have kids, and my roommates they've all moved out.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It is.
Pants are optional.
That's the best part.
Yeah. Yep. I go to open the door if there's a delivery or something. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not wearing pants. Like, hold on. Got to put pants on.
I've stopped wearing clothes. And luckily I actually went outside to check how much visibility there was, because my patio door faces a major street. And
I did the same thing today. I walked out to my car and back, and I was looking at every step of the sidewalk.
Yep. Yep. They can't see it, so now I don't worry about it. The only time
Mine either.
Yeah, it's great. For meetings, I just wrap myself in a blanket and say it's cold in my apartment. So
I work from home, and I start work very early. Like, I work 6 a.m. shift. I used to work 5 a.m., but because I get off earlier, it's nice. Yeah. But because of that, I get up and sometimes I'm not even I'm just wearing a t-shirt and, nothing, like panties or whatever. And I go and clock in, but by my first break, I go and put pants on, and then I slowly put on a bra and maybe some lip gloss or something. So by the end of the day, I actually feel human, because it helps me focus. That's just my steps to kind of feel more human. So,
understandable.
Yeah. So we didn't really have a topic this week. I was telling you that earlier. They didn't hear, but I was telling you that earlier, that we don't really have a topic. But I kind of just wanted to talk to you again, because you were on our episode 2 or 3. It was a while ago. And it was so much fun. So we wanted to have you back on again at some point. So we figured, why not now?
I am honored. I remember when this was just a thought in the atmosphere.
The baby. It was a baby podcast back in the day.
I remember when I got my bowl.
We still do that. It's just been a while since we've had to send them out. But yeah, it's you were on the harassment episode.
I was.
The sexual harassment episode, which was a good one. So I've been going back. I don't think I mentioned this on the show, really. I've been going back and listening to the episodes in order, and then writing down all of the funny quips from
nice.
us and guests, and you have some good ones. But I've been writing down and quoting them, because I figured at some point, if we can get enough compiled, we can make a little quote book. And then,
that would be awesome.
And then say it was some kind of inspirational quote book, things like, there's plenty of other dicks in the ocean, or, those little things that can help you live a better.
Cross-stitch.
We're basically life coaches. Exactly.
I love it.
So you have some good ones. You were on an episode with Marissa, and it was Amy and I, and you had some good. I'll have to go back and find some and send them to you. You have some good singers.
Re-listen to that episode.
It's good. I was sitting there at work one day and writing it down and laughing, and people were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm listening to myself. Don't worry about it. It's fine." Just fucking hilarious. So yeah, I wanted to kind of ask you, I don't think we went into history of like who you are, your background and all of that. So you want to just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I am America, and I was born in Texas. I am Black. It's hard to sometimes tell by my voice. I have a very like basic American accent. People are like, "Oh shit, she's Black," and I'm like, "I know, right?"
I swear.
Yeah, no, this will make sense when I tell you the next part, but I was like 14 before I was like, "Oh wait, I'm Black? This doesn't wash off?" Okay, that's new information to me. But yeah, so I was adopted by my uncle, who is a very fair, white-passing Black man, and his white Mormon wife, and lived in Salt Lake City for a decade. Yeah, no, it was great. And so, yeah, that's why I'm like, wait, I'm Black? Because even though he is a Black man, I was raised to think that, my skin color is just going to wash off if I become a good Mormon girl.
Yeah, it just depends on your faith. So,
right. Yeah.
I know that.
Right. Like that's what I grew up with. And then they got a divorce. And so I went back to my biological family, and my mother is darker skinned, and they're African immigrants, and my dad's Jamaican. And so when my parents were like, "Hey, we're your parents," and I'm like, "You're not my fucking parents. I'm a white woman." And they were like, "What in the world did these white people do to our kid?"
Utah isn't just white. It is like, that's extreme whiteness. Like Utah is very, it's like white to the 10th power.
Right. And I was in Salt Lake City.
Which is a little more diverse, but not really.
A little more.
Yeah. It's better than like 90s. Orem.
Oh, God. Anything outside of Salt Lake City
I'm from.
and Ogden. I don't go anymore. I drove from Tucson, Arizona, where I live now, to Salt Lake City, and stopped in, I don't know if there was a town name. And this woman walks up to the side, like I'm pulled along the side of the road, checking my, like, I've got the dog with me, so I'm checking the dog. And this woman walks up to me, and I've forgotten how prairie they dress in southern Utah.
Oh,
and she walks up to me, and she's got her kids with her because she can't speak to me. Her children have to speak to me because they're men. And so her son is the first one to say something to me, and I scream, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Because I just forget that they dress like this. And for a moment, I was like, "Oh my God."
Were you in like St. George area?
I must have been.
Because that's like the FLDS territory. Like that gets crazy.
It was, I totally forgotten what it was like to be in southern conservative Utah. And it felt like I'd driven into the Twilight Zone. And here I am. It's July, so I'm in like coochie cutters and a tank top. And they're looking at me, and they're like, "Fuck, she's Black." And the boys are like, "Can we help you?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I just, I'm passing through. I just need to like check on my dog. I've got a dog." And they were like, "Oh, okay."
You're like, you scared me with the hat and the dresses.
It was like watching a pioneer woman step out of time, and I'd totally forgotten. Yeah.
And the thing is you just feel so bad. You feel bad for them.
Right,
like have you tried not wearing 6 layers of clothes? Have you tried it?
In July.
Yes. I mean, I thought it was bad enough with garments. I mean, I didn't wear them anyway because I was a really bad Mormon. But I did. I tried it a couple times. I'm like, nope, this is hot. It sticks to my skin. I hate it. And I just stopped wearing them. I was like, I might work out later, and that's disrespectful to the garments. So not going to do that.
Yeah.
I never worked out, but, I might. At any point, I could break out in, like, a workout. So
it could happen. Who knows?
Never know.
2020 has already been weird enough.
Yeah, I could work out at some point. Yeah, that's not going to happen for any time soon. I mean, I go to PT, but I guess that counts.
Yeah.
So, Southern Utah, what brought you to Southern Utah?
Yeah. So we're going to jump around because that's just my thought process.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Me too. I have ADHD. I'm all over the place.
Great. I love it. So ended up back in Texas with my biological family, was living with them and hated their conservative Catholic upbringing. So now
what part
I'm
of Texas?
San Antonio.
Okay, that's where I'm from.
Yay!
We'll have to geek about it sometime.
I know. And I'm going to move to Dallas next year after graduation. So we're going to be so close to each other.
Dallas is so good. I like it.
I'm so happy. Okay.
Once we got rid of Smalley.
Yeah.
Some group effort.
San Antonio, and then went to school to be a histologist, ended up in Connecticut, hated that, ended up in Arizona because it was the first job that hired me out of Connecticut.
Connecticut sounds terrible.
So here's the thing. Listeners of this podcast.
There's like dozens.
I know, I love them. Stop saying, and this is like, it's driving me up a wall. You got to stop saying that the South is racist. The U.S. is racist. We're going to get into this later, but this is one of my biggest gripes.
It's systemic throughout, like across the board. I mean, the South is more visibly racist, but everybody is racist.
Right. And this is why, like, Connecticut matters. Connecticut, next to Utah, was the most openly racist place I've ever lived, right? Like,
wow.
And I mean, to the point of, I'm moving in to these, Connecticut is basically like 3 major cities and then the rest is suburbs. And when the factories closed down, there were a lot of people from the Caribbean who had immigrated to the US and they'd come for these jobs. Factories leave. So now you have like Bridgeport, which is this major city, but it's really economically and racially segregated. And you've got a lot of people in their 50s and 60s when I was living there in 2011 who are like working at the gas station and like at the mall and the things you would think of as like kids' jobs, you know. Yeah. Like you just would not expect someone with a mortgage and a family to be working at Foot Locker, right?
Yeah, because you can't support your family on it. Like it's not a livable wage.
And so like it's very racially and economically segregated. I didn't know how to drive a car, so I moved into this apartment complex next to the lab where I worked. But it means I'm in the suburbs in an upper middle class area that's almost entirely white. And because they do not have a great public transportation system, which is intentional.
Oh, yeah. My city does the same thing. They keep voting it down.
Right. Yeah. So it was very intentional.
And it's very clear what they're doing because they're like, well, we don't want it to bring in certain elements. I'm like, oh my God, you mean brown people? Like, is that what you're saying? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Oh, that's exactly what it was. And so as I'm moving in, like it's my grandmother and I, all of the neighbors kept asking us if we were the maids and how much we charged for services. And over and over again, I would say, I live here. This is my apartment. I'm not the maid. I don't have a maid. And that would happen multiple times. I went to a grocery store with my boyfriend who was half white and half Japanese. And this woman pulls him aside and they start talking in an aisle and he comes back and he's furious and he grabs me. We don't even buy our groceries. And we get in the car and I'm like, what is wrong with you? And he said, she just told me that I needed to stay with my own kind.
Whoa.
And I was blown away. Like,
but then, like, if you're like mixed race, like who? Like which?
And I don't think she recognized he was mixed race. She saw a like
just whiter guy,
a whitish
like lighter
looking
skin
guy, and she was like, no, he can't date a black woman. And it was, and it's supposed to be a liberal state, but I experienced overt racism all the time. And it blew my mind because I thought I'm in the North, it's a democratic state, and I was told the South is racist. But no, like racism happens everywhere. And in the South is racist, or just sort of
they should just say the South is racist also.
Right. Right. Like we have to understand that this country has an issue with racism. Oh, yeah. It's not just regional.
Washington, D.C. is racist. I've seen it.
Yes.
Like I've heard it in every press conference from the White House.
I live in Arizona, which is...
Yeah, Arizona is racist.
Very racist. They hate Mexicans. And then go to Mexico.
Yeah.
and yell about Trump should build a wall. And I'm like, wow, you're all terrible people. But that's probably why Mexico closed the border for us.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about that. So I have this theory.
Yes.
I think it's pretty sound. And I don't have any documentation to cite it, but I'll make a meme so I have something to cite and proof. It'll be cute. It'll have a picture of a cat or something. So I think that the virus was created by Trump administration to win the election, first of all, first and foremost, but also to get Mexico to pay for the wall to protect Mexico from us. That's my theory. And I will create the proof, and I'll find some YouTube video, I'll have evidence in quotes.
2020 is weird enough.
It is the weirdest. And then I just saw that there were flying ants over the UK today that were actually mistaken as rain, but it was a swarm of ants. I just saw it on, I didn't verify it, but it was on Facebook. It was a cited news article, and yeah. So that's wild. Plus there's that bat that's the size of a human that they found.
We are in a horror movie.
I feel like we somehow flipped into the upside down, and I don't know how to flip it back. And I think we all caused this. I'm not sure what caused it. Probably voting for Trump would be my guess.
I was going to blame it on those stupid Popeyes chicken sandwiches that destroyed the country.
Have you tried them yet, though? Wait, before you get mad.
You're going to want to sit down for this. I hate fried chicken.
But it's spicy. I don't like straight up fried chicken either, but if it's spicy...
Oh, okay. I'll try that, because I love spicy food.
Yes, it's spicy, because Popeyes is Cajun. So it's spicy, and then it has a dill pickle in it, too, which kind of redeems it, too. It's good.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a Popeyes down the street from me. I'll just go walk.
Just get the chicken sandwich, but you have to get it spicy.
I can do that. It's only 110 right now. I'll just, wander down
I know.
the street.
I keep doing that to Amy. I'll take a picture in my car. It's like 103. I'm like, that's not even a human number. It's not okay. And I've lived both places. I've lived in Phoenix and I've lived in Dallas, and neither are better. They're both terrible in their own special ways. They're both just terrible.
Phoenix is that King of the Hill meme is very true. You feel
like you're standing on the sun's surface in Phoenix.
Right, because they've gotten rid of everything that was green and lush and beautiful.
There's no green. The whole city is concrete, and it just absorbs the heat and then radiates it back up at you.
My first time in Phoenix, I went out to, it was a business thing, and so we'd been in the hotel all day. Yeah. And then my hotel was across the street, and it was midnight, and I walk outside, and I felt the heat come off the side of the building. Yeah, it's like that
warm wave. It's gross. And you get in a pool. We had a pool in our apartment complex when I lived in Phoenix, and the pool feels like warm bath water. It's not refreshing.
No, it's not.
I was like, I can't swim in this because it feels like someone has already peed in it.
Right.
That's how it felt to me, but I'm gross. So
I agree.
It's terrible.
It is. And the only redeeming quality about my city, which is Tucson, is we have a mountain.
Mount Lemmon is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's absolutely beautiful. As long as it's not on fire, which it usually is.
Yeah.
If you go all the way up to the top, there's a pie place. There's a pie stand that has the best strawberry rhubarb pies.
Yes.
I've been there. It's delicious.
Okay, so when I do come move to Dallas, I will deep freeze them. And bring them with me, and I will bring you some pies. I'll probably be driving anyway, so I'll just
I love pies. When you meet me, you'll see that I love pies and nachos and tacos.
No, I support all of those things. I'm
not a health nut. I'm fine.
There's no reason to be. We're all going to die anyway. So.
Exactly. I just read somewhere that 85 cases of babies or children under 10 or something got COVID. I'm like, okay, cool. Great. So, but open the schools. Let's do that. You were telling your story too. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
You fit right in.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. So I'm in Arizona right now. I met a random girl on Meetup. This is how I got to atheism, because I was still sort of woo Christianity. I met a random girl on Meetup in a crafting group And she was just like the sweetest, nicest person I'd ever met in my whole life. And I had no friends. And she was like whispering to someone else because I'm new to this crafting group. And she's like, yada, 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 drinking godlessly is tomorrow. And I'm like, what is drinking godlessly? And she's like, we don't want to offend you. You're this very nice girl.
That's always, you always have to dance around it at first. You're like, so you know how there's this God.
And she's like, we're really good people, I swear. And I'm like, what is happening? And she's like, we're atheists. And she waits, and I'm a little.
You always have to kind of like, you do that now probably, where you tiptoe around it.
Right. I never tell people. And so, never flat out. Most people
I don't
find
either.
out. Yeah. But yeah, she was like, so we're atheists, and we just get together and hang out. And so I went, and I literally was introduced to atheism because I wanted friends. And they were the nicest people to me.
They hardcore fellowshipped you.
They really did. And I was like, well, I could be an atheist. I don't actually know if I believe in God. And I came home and
God fellow?
Right. And I came home and told my boyfriend that, who is a hardcore conservative Christian. He's one of 7 kids. He'd wanted us to get married, move back to Iowa where his family's from, and start a church.
Have you been to Iowa? Pass.
I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I told him I was an atheist, and the relationship went downhill from there. But I became it doesn't really work when the other person
doesn't bode well.
Right, evangelical Christian who wants to start a cult in Iowa.
Yeah. Well, he was probably one of those guys. He was like, I want you to have babies, and I want you to do it unmedicated, and ugh.
I got an IUD, and the
smart.
I know. The OBGYN, because, they ask you all kinds of questions about your relationship, and I was telling her, and she says, well, I don't know if I want to give you an IUD because your boyfriend wants children.
So he can go have children, just not with me.
Thank you. And I was like, wait, what does he have to do with my uterus? She's like, well, don't you think it's a little selfish to get this procedure done if he wants children? Yeah. Especially... and I told her thinking it was funny that he'd wanted 7 kids, but she's thinking, oh, well, you need to start right now. I was 25 at the time. She's like, you need to start right now if you're going to start having 7 kids. And I was like, oh, I'm going to see another doctor, ma'am. We're not having this conversation. He doesn't get to make my medical decisions.
7 kids. His opinion doesn't automatically become mine.
Right.
It's this weird thing that I'm the separate person. It's weird. You wouldn't understand it.
It was, she was like, no, I don't know if we want to get you an IUD. And then when I got my tubes tied, that doctor was like, but how will you get married if you can't have kids? And I was like,
I'm going to get married with my tubes tied. It's happened. It's possible.
Apparently, this doctor...
I didn't know that didn't work. The marriage license bounces off of your tubal?
Well, It's the fact that, according to her, all men want children with their new spouse. So even if they have children with a previous spouse, that they would want children from me. And so me being unable to provide biological children would prevent men from wanting to marry me.
Had that doctor met children?
I again, as an OB-GYN, I thought maybe 1 or 2 she's run across.
I get it. Every time I get hot flash and my hormones are flaring, I'm like, I really want babies with you, but I actually don't.
Right.
Because babies and children are the fucking worst.
I'm learning that. Apparently they're not as cute and cuddly.
They are cute in pictures. It's like wild animals. A fox is really, really cute, but I don't want it in my living room. It's going to tear shit up.
Right.
That's how I feel about a toddler. The same as I do as a polar bear.
You're right. They are very cute, but no, I don't want to let one loose. In
pictures. In their environment.
Which is somebody else's house.
It's somebody else's house. Co-parenting, I'm telling you, is the best thing ever.
I like Auntie America, right? So I'm
being an aunt is fantastic. I love being an aunt.
It's great. I think
being mom?
Yeah, no.
Pass.
You gotta feed them and take care of them, and that's
every day.
Yeah, for almost 20 years.
I tell them that, I have a 17-year-old, and I'm like, dude, I fed you yesterday. What the fuck? And he's like, okay, fine, I'll go make some frozen burritos. I'm like, thank you. I'll feed you tomorrow.
Right.
Maybe. We'll talk.
At 17,
He
and
can
Texas
do
is
it
really
himself.
plentiful. He can hunt for his own food and forage and
There is a raccoon that lives like on our roof or around here. I've seen it diving in the sewers. It's the size of a beagle. That would feed us for like a week.
right.
It's gigantic. It's
See, this is where Auntie America needs to come in because I started archery because PSE, the like major
I would love to
manufacturer-
do that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so I started archery and I will teach him how to hunt a raccoon and we will traumatize the neighbors by like skinning it and roasting it in the front yard.
I
It's
really,
fine.
really, really want my kids to grow up with Auntie America. I really do. Like, legitimately want
She's
that.
here to stay. She's here. She's here to stay.
That's fantastic. These are giant teenager smelly children, and they need Auntie America.
Oh, I'm excited for the smelly part because we're going to have a whole conversation about personal hygiene.
Because I have conversations, and they're just like, "Ugh, Mom, I know, I get it." I'm like, just a little bit of deodorant, and then I'll hug you. I'm like, okay, I'll side hug you right now, but you smell.
Yeah, no, I'll take them out into the woods and just dump them in a creek somewhere and scrub.
All of your
I will
plans start with the woods. I love it so much.
I will do what my grandmother did.
Doesn't even creep me out. I'm like, go for it. Take them out in the woods. I don't care. Buy a panel van. Fine, go for it.
We will
Put
by
free
the time-
candy on the side of it. I'm good. Go
Right.
for it.
By the time I bring them back, they will be model citizens. Trust me. I got this. I got this. It'll be amazing. I'll do what my grandmother did where we were on a road trip and I just hit puberty. I don't know how deodorant and stuff works. And she took me in the store.
And those hormones are strong.
Right. And we washed me from head to toe in a HEB bathroom, which is only a Texas thing. And she was like, "You smell
It's only
horrendous."
South Texas too. There's nothing up here.
Really? Okay, so it's just...
Yeah, I was surprised when I moved because I lived in San Antonio and Austin.
Wow.
And then I moved to Phoenix. And when I moved back to Dallas, I was like, "Where's HEB? Not here. It's as far as Waco. That's it."
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. Now I do.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to take them in the woods and we will spray them down with cold water and I will get...
It's not HEB. The woods will do.
No, the wood. And then I will get, and I don't know where she got this brush, but she had this hard boar bristle brush from
God.
the
you can
pioneer
order them.
days.
Yeah, I had one.
Scrubbed me in this bathroom. I am a naked, 13, 14-year-old. And women are like, "Oh, yeah, no, my kids are going through that smelly time right now, too." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. But do we have to do this in the bathroom right now? This woman is seeing my, body." And my grandma's like, "We don't care." And I'm like, "But I care. I care." Yeah, no, I got scrubbed naked in a bathroom because I smelled.
My daughter, she'll come and snuggle up against me. I'm like, "Oh, honey."
Oh, yeah. There's a funk because we have other things that happen.
Yeah, and she's at the stage where she's not even brushing her hair, and it's real long.
Oh.
And it's this whole fight that I'm having with her dad, too, because he keeps telling her you'll regret it if she cuts her hair. And I'm trying to take her to my beautician who will even dye her hair in the color she wants and everything. I'm willing to do everything funky and fun for her. And she's stuck in not making him angry. So it's this whole fight that I'm having right now. I'm just then brush it. If you're going to grow your hair long, you have to at least take care of it.
I think I'm going to spend winter break in Dallas.
Yay!
And your kids are going to disappear for a week.
Yes,
and
promises.
Be whole new people.
Oh, good. Amy will probably ship her kids down too. It'll be this whole thing.
Maybe I'll just start a camp of.
That would be fantastic.
Just go around, be like, "Oh, you're having problems with your children? Auntie America will fix this."
It's not really. So mine aren't really problems. It's just I don't have any things that I can cite and be like, "Ugh, this is something that's really an issue,"
Right.
It's just little things like, "Damn, they smell," or "Sure wish you would brush your hair." But it's overall, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just
kids.
It's just common stuff. Yeah, it's just they're basically good kids. So, because
I love it.
I wouldn't let them be assholes.
I appreciate that.
I think the world will too.
As someone who is currently in college in my 30s and living
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I went to college. I started college at 28. I went back to school at 28. And oh my God, those children are so insufferable.
Yeah, it has not gotten better. And I've
No,
talked
I
about
bet.
this on my Facebook, but my roommates are also very wealthy people. And so they have done, two of my roommates were raised for their whole high school careers by maids because they lived in a home that was not the home their parents lived in. So one of my roommates who's from Hungary, her parents live like way out in the middle of the country because they own like a mine or something. And so she lived in the city with a maid because she is an athlete. And so she lived with her maid to be able to go to like this amazing high school and be able to go to like her meets and have her coach and things like that. And this other girl,
Yeah.
her parents are Cuban. And I think they actually live in Mexico because she goes down there a lot and her parents meet her. So I'm thinking that they actually like reside in Mexico, but she has a home in Arizona. So she lives here in Arizona, which is like, she lives now in a whole other country than her parents. She's in Arizona right now and her parents are wherever, but she lives in a home with a maid, and they just like, they've had maids their, teenage years. So they don't know how to do.
So they don't know how to clean
anything.
up after themselves.
No, I had to explain why the floor, why your feet get black on a floor because they don't understand the concept of like dirt not being like the dirt outside. They're thinking that like if the floor is dirty, I should see a pile of dirt on the floor. Meanwhile, they bring their bikes in the house every day and like
Oh my God.
all of their sports equipments, and then they have all of the teams from the University of Arizona drunk and naked in my apartment.
You're like,
which
you
sounds,
need to take turns cleaning.
Thank you. And like I tell people, I actually had to call a friend. I was like, please let me come over because there are 21 naked, well not naked, but they're in their like bras and underwear, like half naked co-eds in my living room because they're like making t-shirts and stuff to go to the first football game of the year. And he's like, why is this a problem for you? And I was like, look, I'm sure it's, I'm sure it seems great, but unless you've been around 21 annoyingly drunk, incredibly young women, like it's not
like, have you
actually
hung
fun.
out with a bunch of 20-year-olds? Because it's not fun.
Right. They're like, oh, that's hot. And I'm like, no. Somebody just fell off a chair and broke their fucking leg. It's not fun. Get me out of here.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like with kids and animals. It's like, sure, in pictures it looks real hot.
Right.
In reality, they smell.
Yes.
There's broken legs.
Right. And I'm like, aren't you on one of the sports teams? And she's like, yeah. So we can't tell my coach what happened. So
You're like, I'm pretty sure they're going to figure it out when your leg is broken.
What actually happened is they didn't want the coach to know that she fell and injured herself drunk falling on a chair in someone's living room. So they actually got her to the stadium and then staged a fall on the stairs. And then took her to the hospital. Because then when the coach is like, oh, you can't play, because they're athletes, so their tuition gets paid for by being able to play, but she couldn't play, and you can't tell coaches because you were drunk in my living room, so they staged a fall at the stadium.
I mean, I understand that also because of schooling and tuition. Yeah. There's a lot of factors in play here.
Oh yeah.
But that's
I was just shocked that they like went through because she's obviously, I don't think it was broken, but her leg was purple and swollen. It wasn't cute. I don't know what was happening. But she was obviously in pain, and they waited for the Uber, took the Uber to the stadium. That's
commitment right there.
Yeah, like there was commitment to this bit, so that she wouldn't get in trouble. But anyway, where were we? What are we talking about?
I don't know. I think we were talking about. So you were in Arizona.
Oh yeah. So became an atheist, and then I was
for the friends.
For the friends, basically, I needed friends.
That's like the best deconversion story. You're like, so I went out for drinks, and then God was gone. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I came home and I look at my boyfriend. I'm like, I don't think I believe in God anymore. And he's like, where the fuck did you go? It was like, I went to a bar with some atheists and they were really nice people. And
they're so much nicer than other people. They are.
It was great. Yeah, and so I joined we have a fairly large atheist community here in Tucson, and I became like social director. and was just trying to create fun events.
It's very Mormon of you.
There's some things that I can't
I know.
rid of.
I was doing like fellowshipping for a while, and I was reaching out to people that showed like a little bit of skin on their thing. I'm like, are you not interested in the church anymore?
Right. We just, there's some things that get so ingrained in us.
It is.
But yeah, so I became a social director, and on Cognitive Dissonance, I'd heard an episode about like the Satanic Temple, and I was like, oh, those are some wacky atheists, goth people. And then just something weird happened where I was at a bar and someone was like, hey, America, you're into weird stuff, meaning I was into kink. And they were like, so there are these goth atheists that sometimes come, and we think they may be like, I don't know, into that like spanking stuff. You may want to hang out with them. And I was like, what does goth atheism have to do with spanking? But sure, I'll
Turns
go.
out there's a crossover.
I know. And I was like, okay.
There is a cross section there. I know.
It really is. And I was like, well, I guess I'll go and hang out with those people.
It's like I might as well just wear this leather outside of the bedroom too. It's
That's
fine.
right. The chains and the,
I know.
So I went to a meetup because someone was like, well, they're probably into like kink and weird stuff. And I was like, all right. And so I went, and they said, yeah, we want to do a highway cleanup and just like better the world. And I was like, oh,
so kinky. That's dirty.
I know. And I was like, that seems like atheism, but more fun. And so I became a member of the Satanic Temple.
That's fun.
Because I wanted to do a highway cleanup.
Maybe wearing a collar. Who knows? We'll see.
I think we had other people wearing collars. I'll have to go back through the photos of our highway cleanups. But yeah, so we did a highway cleanup. I got all the goth kids to get up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday and clean in the hot Arizona sun. And we have a sign up, and yeah. So now I'm a Satanist, and that's always fun to explain to both Christians and atheists who immediately freak out and think, oh.
You're like, Satanist isn't scary if you already don't believe in God, right? Like,
and I'm like, we're the ones that do the activism. And they were like, oh, we like you. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, the statues? That's us.
Yeah.
That's us. You're welcome.
Yeah. So that is...
Meanwhile, you guys are fighting amongst yourselves over, tone policing.
Right, yeah. Why do we have to put trigger warnings? You guys are a bunch of snowflakes. Okay, bro.
Oh, there was one today in one of the groups. I don't even remember. But someone posted a picture of like just a shirt that was basically like a car saying, I don't slow down for protesters, or something like that. It was It was shitty. It was a shitty thing. And some dude in the comments was like, oh, I own that shirt, LOL. It's like, are you fucking kidding? I think it was probably Cognitive Dissonance. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, people were ripping him apart, and he was like, yeah, and? It's like, dude, you can't even... Oh, it's like, really?
I have hit someone with my car. It was absolutely accidental. But like... Yeah. I feel like the people that make jokes about, oh, I would shoot someone
disgusting.
Or I would hit someone.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've never seen someone die or become seriously injured by your own hands. Like, that's when I know these people are so far removed of actually, like, the man I hit was bloody and broken. And it was a horrifying moment in my life. And I'm like, you've never actually hit someone with your car then if you think this is funny and something you would actually do. And if it is, then you're a total psychopath, and we need to call the FBI.
There's a sociopathic element going on
in those basements if these people are serious.
Right. I don't know where Texans hide their bodies. There's no basements.
That is East Texas is kind of woody and empty.
That's true. They just drive.
Yeah. Or like Louisiana. I'm sure you could just go into the swamp and...
That's if I was going to become some kind of serial killer, it would be in like Louisiana or Florida,
right?
Because the disposal would be much easier with all like the marshy areas. It just seems like it would be more easier, much easier. So that right there is called premeditation.
I know. So my FBI agent needs to stop listening to this part of the podcast.
Mine stopped listening to me years ago because I wouldn't stop crying.
Mine's like, why is she watching porn again? Oh my God, it's that weird Japanese porn. God damn it, America. Can't you judge me?
Oh yeah, I have some weird like search things. It's like I'm going to try to spell amateur and I can't do it right the first time. Just figure it out for me, please. Like it. Can you just autofill it for me, please?
Yes.
Incognito, which isn't really incognito, I'm sure. Like, just please. I can't spell that right off the top of my head.
I know. I'm very worried about... I just now take my laptop with me everywhere because if I die, then I'm just throwing it away myself. I'm not waiting.
It's just all on my phone. Everything's just on my phone.
I should do it on my phone because I never used Zoom before I have the job that I have right now. And my very first week, I was asked to share my screen on Zoom. And
oh, God.
I know. And so we use a program at work called Box instead of, like whatever, the Dropbox. So we just use Box. And I typed in Box to go like box.com and it fills in something about like wet, juicy lesbian box gets licked. And the whole Zoom goes dead silent. And I'm like, can somebody just send me the link in the chat? And I still have the job somehow.
Damn roommates were on my laptop again.
Yeah, it's just, oh my gosh. No, I totally blamed it on my boyfriend. And my boss was like, oh my gosh, I had the same conversation with my husband. I understand.
It's so embarrassing. Oh my God.
I was like, wow, I just sometimes. And she's like, yeah, no, I've had to have the same conversation with my husband. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I feel bad because I'm like, wow, we just, throw men under the bus all the time. But they,
all the time because, they can't help themselves.
Right. Just weird.
Meanwhile, we are just disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah. I've had to come to terms with the fact that, like, I almost only just watch, like, gay men in porn right now. And it's got to be, like, super shaved twinks. And I don't know where that came from, but...
Oh, that's okay. I'm watching straight up gangbangs. It's fine.
No,
if it says amateur rough, I'm like in. Yeah, I'm in. Sign me up. I want to watch that.
When the pandemic is over, I keep telling people, I'm like, guys, we should have an orgy. And my friends are like, you know what? We could all
down.
die.
Like,
I'm telling you.
Yeah, but as long as we wear our mask, we'll be fine.
There was an orgy in Phoenix over.
Like, oh yeah, I saw that
July weekend, and I saw the videos. And I'm like, wow, y'all are not even wearing masks. You're not even wearing condoms. Like, you're not protecting yourself in any way in this situation.
We'll go. There's like 3 or 4 sex clubs in Dallas. Yeah. And I'll show you. But I went to the website. I was like, just to see what kind of preventative or what kind of like measures were in place or whatever. Nope, it's open.
Yeah.
Masks were suggested, but this was before like the masks were required.
Right.
But they were just suggested. I'm like, okay, so you go to a sex club with no mask on, and you're just like fucking randos? Like, seriously? It seemed crazy.
Whipped in the corner and just panting and
right?
Like all of that. Yeah. No, it's
well, that's the dungeon one. That's different. It's a different one. These are just like the swinger clubs.
I actually have my membership here in Tucson has reciprocity at your dungeon in Dallas. So I'm already technically a member.
Nice. You can get me in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be great.
Okay. Well, it's attached to another club. It's attached to like a swinger club. It's like a back room. It's a back room. I've never been, but I've read a lot about it because I'm intellectually kinky. But I haven't actually physically participated yet because I was Mormon for so long. So there's steps to take before I can actually do anything. So I have to mentally prepare myself, I suppose. I don't know.
No, I totally get it. I went whole hog and was shocked because my first incident, there was a woman who was a police officer and Sunday school teacher on a cross reciting the rosary.
That's fantastic.
Right. And being whipped. And I was like, well, I guess I'm in now because I'll never unsee this situation. She's the nicest woman I've ever met. And we went to her home and she like had converted a back room into a playroom that she also
that's
used
great.
for
I
her.
want to make
Yeah.
these friends. Maybe you can help me make these friends. I don't know. I'm working on it.
Oh, absolutely.
We have any listeners in Dallas.
I will introduce you to all the people. Okay, I'm good at making random friends just because I need friends.
See, and I'm good at. I have a very good cultivated. I know all the atheists.
Oh, nice.
And I'm sure I know a lot of the kinky people, but they don't know I am because I'm very uptight looking. I mean, I always end up topless at every party, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want to go to your sex party.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I end up topless at every party because why wouldn't I? So that's pretty much. Sorry.
No.
You were telling your story.
No, that's I don't wear clothes if I can. Like,
See?
yeah,
get it.
Just naked's great.
It is. I agree.
More boobs, the better.
Yeah, I didn't have a topic for this one either. I just wanted to talk to America because America's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, which is how these random conversations with me go.
Same. You've heard my show.
Yeah, good point.
Like, it's not Amy's fault. It's my fault. I know this. I'm aware.
I mean, like, I love the both of you, and I love when it's like, oh, this went off the rails, but let's keep going. Let's see how far this road leads.
It's usually me. I'm like, have you seen my toes? Or like some random, like, off the wall. And then I go back and listen. I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah, when I was on podcasts, I never went back and listened because I was always embarrassed of whatever randomness I was going to spew.
See, I drink while I record. Mm-hmm. Not a lot, just like one drink. And then I go back and listen when I'm stone cold sober and working. And so I'm like, I don't remember this. Like, it's fun. Because it's like a different mindset. Like, I do these at night when I'm drinking, and then I go back to like daytime, different headspace girl. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I
have a very boring day job, so.
I understand. Yeah,
I know.
You're like, oh, what was I on? Oh, alcohol.
What was I on? Whiskey. That's right.
Yeah.
No, it's whiskey with me.
I've been going through I've been trying all the wines right now because they're cheap. So.
Well, I'm actually allergic to wine.
Oh,
I'm allergic. I know, it's so sad. I like wine and I do drink it, but it always gives me a migraine because I'm allergic to sulfates.
Oh.
And sulfates are in pretty much every wine unless they're vegan.
Yeah.
So, I like it. I like the taste of it. I like wine, but I have to be ready to pay that. And it's a really bad migraine, so it's not really worth it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So no,
I just
don't
drink
do that.
Straight liquor. Yeah. I just don't do it. So, do you have anything else you want to share? Any stories you want to tell?
Yeah. So
fun facts.
I have an interesting situation that's happening in my life. So
yes,
I go to the University of Arizona, and I was on like Instagram, and so since the world is like bullshit and misery right now, we're gonna talk about this. I'm like on Instagram, and it's 3 p.m. on a Sunday, and so it's 106 degrees outside, and I see these stickers that are like for a white nationalist organization, and I'm like, oh hell no.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Not on my campus.
Thank you. And I am also a member of a co-ed fraternity, and I've had issues with racism in my fraternity, which is why I'm no longer an active member. And so I don't know anybody on campus because I'm not going to call my frat brothers and be like, hey, do this. Because they would go and they'd be like, yeah, no, that's hilarious. And I'm like, fuck you. And so I go and I get up and I like go to campus and like they're all over campus. And I'm like, what the fuck? There's somebody, and nobody's on campus right now. They sent us all home. So I'm mad
it's probably
about
overnight or something.
Right. And so I'm mad about it. And I like start taking the stickers off and I've got my headphones in. I'm just like raging at like life. And so these girls who just see me screaming and ripping things off like light posts and like stuff call the cops. And so the cops show up and they're like, ma'am, what are you doing? And I'm like, do you see this sticker? This is for a white nationalist organization. And the cop is like,
yeah, it's gross.
What? And so now I'm like sitting there on my phone with this officer feeling like a total like conspiracy nut because I'm explaining like where I found this and like we're talking about all of the messages that like they have a manifesto. And he's just kind of staring at me and he's like, how did you even find this out? I was like, Instagram. I found it out on Instagram. And he's like, okay. And so they handle it. And I go home and I work for my library on campus and I like send a message on my Slack and I'm like, oh my God, there are white nationalists on campus. And the library erupts into like revolution. They're getting ready to just like, they're like, what do you need from us right now? And I'm like,
That's so funny.
I don't know. And they're like, don't worry about it. We got it. 2 weeks later, I see another post on Instagram for more stickers. And these say, kill blacks on sight. And so now I'm even more, right? Like I'm freaking out because nobody's on campus. And
and it's literally calling for violence.
Right. And so I, again, send this to the library that I work for and revolution fully comes. And I get a message from like the assistant dean of the library. And they say, we want you to understand that we are committed to being an anti-racist organization. And even if campus administration will not make a statement, we will. And the very next day, they have this beautifully written newsletter or like news announcement that they is pinned to the library homepage that talks about the library's commitment to anti-racism. And I cried. Like I'm on the phone with my boss. She can't understand anything I'm saying. I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing ever. And campus administration still has not said anything. I got an email from the police that were like, we've escalated this to a more senior organization that deals with these kind of things. And I'm like, what does that mean? And my boss is like,
it means the file moved to a different desk.
Right. And I'm like, what? And, but yeah, I loved that the library at my school was like, oh, hell no, we don't accept this. And so it's just this wonderful moment of like, campus doesn't give a shit. They're just worried about how to have football games in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Because they just want to make sure the athletes are tested. And,
the athletes got super fancy custom masks. And I was like, oh, but I got to go to class in whatever mask I can find. And not only are they like fancy, they're branded.
Oh, of course.
So they're like these custom things. And I'm like, for our football team that doesn't win ever, what is wrong with you? What, like, I matter more.
Have you ever been in class with one of the football players?
It's never been a football player. It's always been basketball.
But I've been in class with a basketball and a football player, and like one time, like one age, and they are like the worst students. It's generalization, obviously, because there probably is some rare, athlete that's like a super good student too. But they're always like the people in the back that are cheating the entire time, and they're just assholes.
It's when I meet people on smaller teams, like. There was a girl I had in French who was on the track team. She was a phenomenal student. But yeah, the basketball player, he didn't care at all because, like, he's a celebrity. I mean, he was telling a story about, like, going out to a restaurant somewhere and, like, the mayor, our mayor's a woman now, but, like, it was a dude then. And he's like, yeah, so the mayor came up and was like, hey, can I have your autograph? And I'm like, the mayor of the city asked for your autograph? You're some 19-year-old snot-nosed little brat. Why do you matter? But apparently they do.
There was one time I had this lab with this guy. He was only in the class for a week because it was a hard, like, science lab. Yeah. And he dropped it because, he was like, I don't need it for my degree. I'm like, whatever, it's hard.
Right.
Because I think it was like molecular biology or something. And he comes in and he starts talking about how he was obviously Mormon, first of all. He was wearing like a BYU Idaho shirt or something. And he comes in and he's like talking about how he basically was on like a Peace Corps trip for the past 2 years. I'm like, oh, mission. Gotcha. Yeah. But he was talking about it like he did some hardcore Peace Corps time. And I was just sitting there. I could not have rolled my eyes harder because he was like trying to hit on this girl, talking about his time with the Peace Corps. I'm like, you were a fucking Mormon missionary. Just own it. I think I said that. I think I said it loud enough to the people at my table because it was like, 2 lab tables away. And I'm sure he heard me, but I was just like, oh my God, you were a fucking Mormon missionary. No one cares.
That whole Christian
you were not in the
missionary
Peace
thing
Corps.
is this new colonialism that just drives me up a wall.
Yes, they're going to these countries and they're just saving people with being white Christians. Like they are teaching people how to be better.
Right.
It's disgusting.
And then they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to take a bunch of photos on my mission trip. And I'm like, okay, well, when those same brown people need help in your own country, you're like, oh, they're illegal and they need to go back to where they came from. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Drives me up a wall. It's great for
in
the
your
Instagram.
own city.
Yeah.
Yeah, in your own city, all of these people that are trying to get out of, impoverished areas or, maybe asking you to vote a certain way so, districts have more allocated funds or whatever, whatever they're asking for. People are just like, you kind of got yourself in that mess. Maybe you should try pulling yourself out of it.
By your bootstraps.
Yeah, I'm especially mad right now because I've been reading a lot about redlining.
Yeah.
So I'm very angry. I've been reading Color of the Law and I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of I've just been very mad lately. I have a lot of rage.
Oh, I understand.
I didn't know it existed. No one teaches you.
Right. And I was fully ignorant, again, having been raised by a very self-hating Black man who had totally deluded himself into believing, my grandmother and I are about the same color. So, we're obviously not white in skin tone. And yes, his father is a white man, but he could look at his mother and say, no, I'm white. Blows my mind. And then to raise me, who is much darker than him, to believe that same thing, I will forever have rage and anger about that. And so I
don't blame you.
I grew up thinking I was one of the good ones, right? That was I was a Fox News watching, right-wing conspiracy theorist, Republican.
And did you all go to Mormon church? Because she was Mormon. I know
she was Mormon. I would go with her, and he would go too, just because he's the head of the household and he needs to go.
Right.
But our that side of the family is Catholic, so I don't know if he ever converted or was baptized. I was not baptized because I hit puberty at 8, and they were not okay with how do you baptize a child that now has a body very similar to a young woman. So I was never baptized, which, it's not that would change me being able to leave, but I actually really appreciate that I was sort of then kept more on the periphery of our religion. Mm-hmm. Because I can't imagine how much worse, my self-hatred would have been if they would have gone the other way.
Seriously, if you had gone all the way in, deep dive.
Yeah.
But it's nice to kind of well, it's not nice, but you understand the culture because the culture is so, you can't even explain it to people. I'll be talking to someone and they're just like, what did you just say? I'm like, oh, I hear it from your perspective and it is crazy, but to me, it's completely normal.
Right.
Completely normal. This just, I can't even think of anything right out of the blue, visiting teaching or something. No one understands that concept. Okay, so let me get this straight. People are assigned to be your friends, sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah, it's the whole thing. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's all, your story's interesting.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a journey. And I, obviously, I know I am probably the person I am because of the trauma and bullshit that we go through. But I don't know.
Yeah, makes more interesting people.
Right. I sometimes think, when I'm with my therapist, if there was anything that I could remove, right, could I be okay with that? Because then, I would be an entirely different person. And so, no, I never enjoyed any of the bullshit I had to go through. But getting to be who I am now, I recognize that I had to go through that, and I hate it, and I hate that anyone would ever have to. But I'm happy to be the America I am now.
That's awesome.
the families that I've come from, I'd probably still be a right-wing, like conservative. I would be Candace Owens, right? Like that's who I was at 14 and kind of stayed that way until high school, and a little into my 20s. But
man,
I was pretty far to the right, even though I wasn't like church going. I was very much like, there is a higher power. Yeah. So I was.
Yeah. Jeez.
When did I move to Arizona? 2012. Yeah. So I was like mid-20s before I was like, okay, maybe this is not who I want to be in my life. And
you're further along than me because I'm like, I would remove everything. I don't care if I'm the same person.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I actually would. I'm working on it. I'm working on accepting it because I can't change it and all that shit. But if I went, I'm like, if I could start it all over, I would do everything differently. But I don't know.
I have to, if I could still end up with the same group of friends, I would change things. Too. But like, that's the thing that gets me is I've met an amazing group of people. And I would not want to lose them. So if I could go back and
that's true,
make other changes, but still end up with like the same friend group that
as long as you have the same, like, if you can remember things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know what I would change. So that's something I think about a lot. I'm like, would I don't know. Because then if I go back and it's like, if I didn't meet my ex or anything, then I wouldn't have had, all those like years of abuse or anything, but I wouldn't have my kids.
Right.
So it's a whole...
Yeah, that's hard.
Other thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, it's a whole thing. And that's not what it was about. Sorry, we're talking about you.
No, let's not make this all about me. Like, my ego's big enough to let me make this all about me, but...
It is all about you. Well, actually, it's been about an hour. I don't know if you want to keep talking or if you want to wrap it up. I'm not sure.
I have...
Where you're on?
I am yours all day. I'm yours until you no longer need me.
Well, we can talk a little bit longer and you can tell me, because I told you at the beginning before we were recording that I didn't want to pretend like I understood like what it was like to be, a black woman in America or just and experiences you've had. And you've talked about, experiencing racism and things like that. But I couldn't even pretend to understand. So basically, I just, not tell me how to understand because I don't know, but something that you would want, like allies to know, like how people can actually be an effective ally.
So I guess one thing is don't think being colorblind is helpful to anyone, right? Like there's nothing wrong with...
That's terrible.
Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with recognizing that your friend is Asian or your friend is Hispanic or your friend is black and you're white. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, it's obvious if you're going around pretending like you don't see it.
Right, like that then does us a disservice because when I then have to discuss like, hey, this racist thing happened to me, then there's we're all just the human race. And I'm like, that doesn't help. As you're learning about redlining, right? It doesn't help to think, oh, well, no, we're all human. There's no reason why African Americans...
Yeah, you can pretend it doesn't exist, but it's still happening. Like, just closing the book doesn't mean the words don't exist,
Yeah,
Like,
and there's a lot to learn on our own. I mean, I went through this journey when Mike Brown died. So I thought I was still one of the good ones, and had no real context for racism or any of that. And all of a sudden Mike Brown dies and I make a Tumblr back when Tumblr was still big. I made a Tumblr post and said, well, if he just would have complied, he wouldn't have got shot.
Oh,
and when I tell you all of Tumblr came for me, I mean all of Tumblr.
They stopped watching porn long enough to attack you.
I know, right? Like, and it was...
And Tumblr had porn. They were that mad.
Yeah, no, like, this is back when, like, Tumblr had the good porn, too.
That's why I don't have it on my phone anymore.
There's no reason to.
There's no reason. Tumblr's dead.
But yeah, no, like, all of Tumblr came for me because I continued to double down because I was very much but we're all people, right? Like, it doesn't matter. We're all people if you would have complied.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And
oh my God.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who just didn't care and were just insulting me. And then there were some people who were like, but you're Black. How did you get here? Right? Like, how can you have this mentality? And so the same situation that a lot of allies are in right now in 2020, I went through back, what was that, 2013? So like,
yeah, I think so.
I've been there. And there were lots of times where I'm like, hey, I'm genuinely trying to understand what is going on. Can you point me to a resource? Because I hate to just tell people to Google it, because in learning about data science and like how search history works, we bias our search history in what we've already been looking for. So in telling someone just to Google it, the results they're going to get are very biased to the way that they already want to think. So I now, if someone's like, well, like, educate me. I'm not going to write paragraphs for you, but I will give you a list of resources that I trust. And so that's something else. Like, if anyone's in a conversation, they're like, okay, I don't quite know how to feel about this, I would ask for resources more than ask someone to directly educate you, because it's a lot of time and effort for me to write out paragraph after paragraph, but I can send you.
Well, and that's asking you to do emotional work that you might not necessarily even be prepared for or want to do at that time.
Right.
You're like, look, I'm busy. I don't want to do your thinking for you.
Right.
So here, read this, do your own research, and then we can have a conversation.
Right. Yeah. And I
that makes sense.
Much prefer that. And it then also lets me, I've been finding a lot of resources just because someone recommended something to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've read this. And ads are like, hey, you read this book. Have you tried this book? And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Let me go there. So
I think I saw an ad for an app that does that.
Ooh.
It's like based on, you put in like books that you read and it recommends your next read.
I am going to have to look that up.
I can't remember what it's called. I saw something for it, but it looked interesting.
I need that because I'm always, you get to the end of the book and you're like, well, now what do I read?
Well, what are you reading right now?
The book that I am reading right now is no fun at all. I am studying for certifications. And so, yeah. But
would not recommend.
No. Gosh. Oh, wait. No, I can.
Just something that you would want to recommend?
Oh my God. I'm literally reading the book right now. Why can I not think I'm reading it again? Okay, wait, let's talk about something for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to...
Okay. No, that's totally fine.
I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm like, no, I have all these list of resources, and all of a sudden...
You're like, middle of the night, the book is like in my head, I'm seeing paragraphs, everything.
That's exact... Okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
Awesome.
I'm such... Okay. So the book that I recommend for people, because I'm super into... bias in AI is Algorithms of Oppression, how search engines reinforce racism.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
And it was one of those where I'm like, oh, no, I know everything. And then
blew your mind?
Yeah, it was, and I'm an information science major, and this is written by an information science professor. And it basically tells you, like, when you tell your uncle, because search engines are marketing tools. They're not, like, we think of them as libraries, but they're really just marketing and advertising. So yeah, when you're telling your uncle, like, well, just go Google it, the ads have, the machine has already learned what he's most likely to read and look for in the websites he goes to. So those are the things he's going to show first. And then because we're human, when we program in and you do like search engine optimization, you are telling, like, that's why when someone looks up, like ugly, it might show women of color. And if you look up beautiful, it's all white women. Because as you've begun to program these things, they've learned.
Added that to my wish list.
Yeah. It's
good.
I it was really eye-opening. And so right now, all of my books, outside of the one for my certification, deal with racial bias in AI and machine learning.
That's where I read Blind Spot a couple years ago.
Ooh,
and that one helped. The hidden biases of good people.
Ooh.
That one was a good one. I can't remember who the author is, but it's called Blind Spot. But then it's like the subtitle is The Hidden Biases of Good People.
Okay.
But the one that just kind of like blew my mind recently is Rage Becomes Her.
Ooh.
And it talks about women and the way we're raised, like so differently from when we're little girls, so differently from little boys. Like we're just raised so differently, and we're suppressed. Like our anger, don't be mad, smile, and we're taught in a way to kind of be the supporting staff to the males, and then it goes into further details like Asian women are told to be polite, and like in culturally and then socioeconomic differences and everything. It breaks down even more and more and more and more and more and further and further and further, and how everyone's expecting like a black woman to be mad out in public, so she has to be like calmer and quieter. Meanwhile, the white woman's yelling at the cashier. You know what I mean? Like it's all these different things, like all these like culturally and it's fantastic. And it just kind of like blew my mind. And it starts at like 5 years old. It's like written by a psychologist. And she talks about how from up until 5, we have the exact levels of anger as like straight across the board. Like humans have the exact levels of anger. And then it starts to be suppressed. And the boys are allowed to just be angry and push things over and knock towers over, and the girls start crying.
Wow.
And it's just kind of, I didn't even realize it. But you're trying to take a step back, and I'm slowly trying to get through it all the way because it really makes me angry and sad. So, but it's good. And then I'm breaking it up with, Color of the Law. And then I have to read like ghost stories every now and then to kind of break that up too, because I can't. There's only so much feminism and racism I can handle at once. So.
Oh no, I understand. I'm reading fan fiction, and I'm like, okay, now let's go back to racism and technology, which is that.
Oh my God, that blows my mind. I need to go read that. I added it to my list.
Yay!
I added it to my list, and I don't know if you have Audible.
I do.
There's a free book this week or this month. It's let me check my library. I just downloaded it. It's called In Search of Black History.
Ooh, okay.
And it's 8 different episodes, and it's stories. They talk about a specific story. So,
okay.
That one seems. I haven't listened to it yet. I hope it's not garbage.
No,
because I used my free. You get those 2 free books. So
right every month. Yeah. No, I will look for that one.
Yay!
I love that. I know there's a meme that says, like black women get angry or black people get angry and white people join book clubs. And like I am angry and I want a book club because I recognize that there's still a lot. I got in a fight, and this is going to be something that maybe white people were like, what are you talking about? I got in a fight where someone had to check me on the fact that, so I am fairer than other black women. And I was like, well, I don't understand why you would feel that way. And she's like, well, America, it's because you're light skinned. And I'm like, well, what, like, I'm still black. What does that have to do with anything? And someone had to be like, but you have this privilege of being like closer to whiteness. And so you're judged differently. And I was like, Oh yeah, no, that's something that you're right. I have to think about, and like I apologize. But
I didn't realize that was a thing until I listened to our episodes, Secular Soup, with John and David on it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing that within the black culture, because way back when it was a difference between the people that worked out in the fields and the people that worked inside the houses, and those class differences remained. I didn't realize that, because that's something that's kept from white people,
And I discovered, so like that was a conversation we'd had. And I think I had the guy that I was dating that was half Japanese and half white. I looked at it as a very like, oh, that's somebody else's problem without recognizing that I have a privilege in the system too. We went and saw a movie called like The Tower or something. And it's a Southeast Asian movie. And we left the movie and he said, did you realize that all the heroes, like the good people in that movie were light skinned and all the criminals were dark skinned? And I was like, wait, what?
They do that so much too.
And it was like, oh, you're right. And he says, yeah, that's like, we have that issue, like there's still a lot of colorism in some Asian countries, especially like if they were colonized by the British, and there's actually like skin bleaching creams. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so, I mean, that's been 8 years since I've had that conversation with him. But that was my first like, oh, not only is there racism like externally, but then there's this internal hierarchy based on shades.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah. We all have a lot of work to do, and I fully admit that I still have stuff myself that I have to work on.
So if people just read and listen.
Yeah.
And not ask, every Black friend to teach them.
Right. I'm learning a lot about China right now. I have a coworker from China and another from India. And they're both being really open.
Oh, there's a lot of... Yeah. There's a lot of disparaging or discrepancies. That's the word. Discrepancies in the way people are treated.
Yes. And I again feel like, okay, in this moment, I need to be an ally and just listen to the things that they are experiencing, because I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Trump called it the like China flu, but like that, he's just being a jerk. And then my coworker's like, no, I went to the grocery store and this situation happened to me. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, I definitely don't need to dismiss that. And I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. People believe it. Like people in my city, I live in a terrible garbage city, but people in my city, they call it the Chinese virus, and they joke around and they're not going to wear masks because they don't believe in this Chinese virus. But so my question is, if you honestly believe that it was something that was manufactured as a biological weapon by China, wouldn't you be more tempted to wear face protection? Like, if I believed it was a weapon, if it was some kind of weapon, I would be like even more scared.
That is very interesting, right? Because it is both crazy. A weapon that they've engineered to harm us, right? But I'm going to do nothing.
And yet it's something to be mocked.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense. Basically, I live in the city where everybody's racist aunt and uncle lives. Oh. Like when they're not at Thanksgiving dinner, they're in my city. Oh, that's where they live. So that's because I have to stay where the kids' schools are. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically it. Well, it's been about an hour and 20 minutes.
Thanks for letting me
I'm
ramble.
going to go probably wrap things up. No, it's a lot of fun. We'll have to have you on again.
Yeah.
And we'll have you on every couple of months and just be like, okay, America, just give us a breath of fresh air.
Talk about whatever weird random stuff is.
Talk to us. Yeah, let's talk about your panel van and how it's not creepy at all.
No, I'm just getting people's kids.
You're like, I'm just gathering your kids. What's weird about that?
I am.
I'm going to take them out in the woods. I'm going to throw them in a river. Teach them how to shoot.
I know, right? It'll be amazing. I'm going to be Auntie America and just help your kids survive the coming zombie apocalypse.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Nothing weird about it. No, I fully embrace this.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Of course.
We love you. Is there anything you want to promote or anywhere?
No. I think everyone should join Twitter. This is my promotion for Twitter.
I will pay more attention to it. And TikTok probably, because TikTok is awesome.
I love TikTok, but like Twitter, I think people should join Twitter because I've just been finding that you get to connect with people who you don't normally connect with. A lot of my followers are now like PhDs, and so I get to get a lot of amazing information from really incredibly smart people in lots of different backgrounds. But then also, when something happens, like, the feds are kidnapping people on the Portland streets, I was able, you get to see those things in real time. And I feel like anyone who wants to really feel like they're dialed in, when the helicopters and military were chasing people in DC, I was on Twitter as people were tweeting about that. And so I encourage people to join Twitter, even if you don't tweet, because I feel like there's...
I mean, I don't tweet, but I will read and I could follow things.
Yeah, and I get a lot of really amazing information within minutes of it happening that I feel like you don't get from watching the news or from being on any other social media. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll go do that. I'll follow you, and then I'll just look and see who you follow so I can try to get plugged in. If you see someone that's like, who the hell is this? It's probably me. Because I'm anonymous on Twitter.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to be my work account, and then the world got political, and my boss was like, go for it. So I actually tweet and constantly yell at my chief of police because in the last month, we found out that our police hid 2 murders by officers that happened over the last 90 days. So I constantly...
Well, they always do until there's a footage that comes up and they're like, oh, that murder.
Right, like, sorry. Yeah, no,
Oh, sorry. We didn't know what you were talking about. We thought that you were talking about brisket or something. Right. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, so I yell at him constantly and he's like, okay, I get it. I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, but you're really going to get it.
Are you?
Yeah. So, but I am at...
I love reminding people on Facebook that their role is an office that we can vote for.
Yes.
Like they're an elected official. I'm like, you remember you're an elected official, right? Like,
right, and you're not a celebrity. Stop thinking that because you're a politician, you get to be
elected official, and I vote, and so do my friends.
Right, like it freaks me out when someone's wearing a politician's merch, and I'm like, oh no, or like when the tattoos of Bernie Sanders came out, I was a little stressed about that.
That was so funny.
I was like, he's not a messiah, ladies and gentlemen.
He's not going to do it.
We got to talk about this. So I tell people to join Twitter. Just
join Twitter. Okay. Stay plugged in better.
Yeah. My Twitter handle, if anyone wants to follow me, is @darling_America.
Okay. I will look for you.
Yay.
Mine is, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
But Amy does our secular soup, so I'm sure she probably follows you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
And I follow her.
Oh, cool. Oh, perfect. And I am never on. So, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me and letting me.
We'll talk to you later. I feel like I learned a lot of things that I didn't know. Like I didn't know Connecticut was that bad.
It's kind of shocking. You don't expect it to be, but it's really racial.
Because you think of like Martha Stewart and like idyllic, and
it's rich white
that's
people
what you think
that
of.
only want other rich white people around. Like they're fine
because Martha Stewart is like a cool rich white person,
right.
But they're not all Martha Stewart. Like they're the bad rich white people,
right? And it's the like, it's like I have a black friend, but the black friend's actually probably like their nanny, right? So.
You're like, she doesn't count. Right, if you pay her, she doesn't count.
You can't pay for friends.
Ask her if you're her white friend.
Right.
That's where it comes from, because you're guaranteed you're not.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So. Well, we'll talk to you another time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks to all of you motherfuckers who put up with the Amy's droning on week after week. If you enjoy their delightful bitchcraft, please follow them on all of the social medias and send them all of your money on Patreon or PayPal. You can find them on these platforms by using the Google machine. It's not hard. If you want to bitch with other fans about the show, join the Secret Soup Talk Facebook group. If you want to tell Amy and Amy to fuck off personally, you can send an email to secularsouppodcast@gmail.com, although it may go unanswered. Please rate and review the show on iTunes, Facebook, and wherever else you can review things like this. It will help spread the soup gospel far and wide. And hey, text someone right now. Tell your friends. As always, we'll leave you with the vocal stylings of Mr. Eli Bosnick.
Secular soup creed. Soup is the ultimate virtue. It's delicious, nutritious, patriarchy smashing, racism fighting, warm and fuzzy, human affirming, fun having, anti-theist, glitter throwing, tummy satisfying, pair of new shoes fulfilling, diversity seeking happiness. minestrone, beef and barley, chicken broth and split pea, gazpacho, tomato, clam chowder and potato, chicken noodle, beef noodle, egg drop and ramen cup, miso, gumbo, leek and pho. Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.